What if being smart isn't just about acing a test? What if it's also about how you move, or how well you get along with people, or even how well you know yourself? Today, we're going to dive into this really revolutionary idea that suggests there isn't just one way to be smart, but maybe, just maybe, there are at least 9. So, let's get into it.
To get our heads around this, I want you to picture 2 different 7th grade history classes. They're both studying the exact same thing, the American Civil Rights Movement. Now, in Miss Cunningham's room, it's buzzing with activity. You've got students painting murals, others are acting out little plays, some are even learning dances from the era. Meanwhile, right down the hall, Mr. Smith's class is learning the same stuff, but through lectures, reading the textbook, and taking multiple-choice quizzes.
So, which class would you rather be in? I think I know my answer. But the more important question here is, why are they so incredibly different? Because this isn't just about 2 teachers with different styles, it's about a really deep, fundamental belief about how our brains actually learn.
And that big idea, the one that makes Miss Cunningham's classroom so vibrant, that's what we're here to talk about. It comes from a Harvard professor named Howard Gardner, and his work has had this huge impact on schools all over the world. Gardner's big idea is called the theory of multiple intelligences, and right off the bat, it's a direct challenge to that old-school idea that we all have one single intelligence, the thing an IQ test is supposed to measure. Instead, Gardner says, hey, maybe intelligence is really about being able to create things or solve problems that are actually considered valuable in your culture. So, if that's the case, how many ways are there to be smart? Well, according to Gardner's full theory, there are 9. 9 completely distinct intelligences that every single one of us has, just in different amounts. It totally flips the script, The question isn't how smart are you anymore, it's how are you smart?
Okay, so what in the world are these 9 intelligences? Let's do a quick tour, just to see how broad this new definition of smart really is.
So check out the variety here. We've got the 2 that schools traditionally love, right? Verbal linguistic, being word smart, and logical mathematical, number smart. But Gardner's theory goes way beyond that. You've got bodily kinesthetic intelligence, think of an amazing athlete or a dancer. And then there's interpersonal intelligence, which is all about being people smart, the kind of skill a great leader or therapist has. And each one of these has its own unique way of seeing the world and learning about it.
So, what does this actually look like when you put it into practice? Let's jump back to Miss Cunningham's classroom and connect all these dots.
You see, her entire lesson plan is a perfect showcase of this theory in action. She's deliberately creating ways for all her students to learn. That mural project? That's for her picture smart kids. It's hitting that visual spatial intelligence. The group plays? They're getting the students moving, using their bodily kinesthetic skills, and working together, which taps into their interpersonal intelligence. And the journaling? That's all about developing intrapersonal or self-smart intelligence. She even has the timeline for the logical mathematical thinkers. It's brilliant, right? She's not just teaching history, she's giving every kid a way in.
But, and this is a pretty big but, as much as teachers and parents love this idea, it's not without its critics. Over in the world of psychology and psychometrics, that's the science of actually measuring mental abilities, this theory has faced some serious pushback. Okay, so the main counter-argument really boils down to this concept called the G factor, which stands for general intelligence. This is the classic idea that there's a single underlying mental engine that we can actually measure. It's the very thing Gardner's theory was trying to get away from.
The evidence for this G factor comes from a really simple but powerful observation. Researchers found that if someone scores well on one kind of mental test, say verbal reasoning, they also tend to score well on others, like math puzzles or spatial problems. This strong connection suggests there's some kind of common factor, this G, running through all of it.
And this, right here, is the biggest hurdle for the theory of multiple intelligences. For all its popularity, critics point out that there's just a lack of solid empirical evidence proving that these 9 intelligences are actually independent things. Yeah, researcher Lynn Waterhouse really lays it out, saying there are no published studies that validate the theory. And what's really wild is that Howard Gardner himself even admitted back in 2000 that there was, and I'm quoting here, little hard evidence for MI theory.
So, where does that leave us? On one side, we've got this incredibly powerful, influential idea that has changed education. And on the other, we have a serious lack of scientific proof.
This is really the heart of the debate, isn't it?
The theory of multiple intelligences has done so much good for education. It gives teachers like Miss Cunningham a way to see and celebrate the different strengths in every single student. But at the same time, it doesn't meet the burden of proof that science demands. So it raises this fascinating question. Is this a scientific theory about how the mind is structured, or is it a really valuable educational philosophy about how we should teach?
Which brings us all the way back to the beginning. After looking at that amazing classroom on one hand and the hard scientific data on the other, how should we define something as complicated as human intelligence? What does being smart actually mean to you?